How's it going, Knicks fans? Welcome back to another episode of Fireside Knicks. I'm your host, Dylan Backer, and I'm joined by my brother and co-host, Justin Backer. And today we're reviewing the Knicks defeat. Oh, I gotta redo that intro. That was bad. All right. Three, two, one, and go. How's it going, Knicks fans? Welcome back to another episode of Fireside Knicks. I'm your host, Dylan Backer, and I'm joined by my brother and co-host, Justin Backer. And tonight, the New York Knicks won yet again, defeating the Washington Wizards by a score of 120-99. A blowout win in Washington pretty much led this game from start to finish, and it's more impressive in the fact that they were missing two starters in this one. No Quentin Grimes and no RJ Barrett in this one. RJ specifically missing his third consecutive game. Really hope he's all right, and hopefully he's back at least for the next game. And same thing with Grimes, of course. He has a sprained left wrist, so really hope that those guys are okay and good for the next one. But regardless, they still managed to come out on top of this one and really just dominate really from start to finish. There were a couple moments in the game where they kind of let it get a little close, but in the end, they pulled away and ended up getting a 21-point victory. So really happy with that. We're going to get into all those kinds of things, but I'm going to pass it off to my brother Justin, and he's going to give us his recap and some of his biggest takeaways from the game.
Yeah, the Knicks win again. They won 120-99. That is obviously a 21-point win. It's a blowout, but the final score, in my opinion, is not very indicative of how this game went. The Knicks kind of started this game out red hot, blew it early on. Kind of felt like we were in for another blowout. The Wizards are not very good as we saw in this game, and the Knicks are obviously on a totally different tier than the Wizards. But after the first quarter or so, the Wizards kind of clawed their way back in. They cut it to 11 at halftime. You felt like the Knicks should have been up by more. It even got down to, I believe, a 5-point lead in the second half, in the third and fourth quarter. But ultimately in the fourth quarter, the Knicks just pulled away and completely blew it wide open, thanks to Manuel quickly and Jalen Brunson mostly. Jalen Brunson had 32 points in this one, 6 for 10 from three, 10 for 23 from the field. Just another awesome game from him. This is what he does. This is who Jalen Brunson is. He's had two great games so far in the two in-season tournament games. I don't know how much that matters, but I mean, that he's probably been the best in-season tournament player so far in the league, if we really want to do that. I don't know if there's an in-season tournament MVP, but he's got my vote for sure. And Emmanuel quickly was just awesome in this one. 27 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists, 10 for 18 from the field, 3 for 7 from three. In the fourth quarter, he had 16 points. He's honestly the reason that this game didn't slip away from the Knicks. In the second half, you felt like that this game could slip away and that they're playing down to their competition. Quickly came in and was just like, no, we're not having any of that. I'm just going to take over and put this away. And that's exactly what he did. And we love to see that he continues to play excellent. I'm so happy for him. I'm happy for him. Really, I know it's going to suck when he leaves, because at this point, there's no way the Knicks are going to be able to afford him at this point. I would be very surprised. He's going to want to start, deservedly so. I'm happy for him. He's going to get a lot of money this offseason, man. I couldn't be happier for him. It sucks that it might not be with us, but so be it, unfortunately. Julius Randle, he had a bit of I'm not going to say he had a great game, because it was a little worse than the last few games. There was a mental lapse of him in the third quarter, I believe, where he just completely decided to stop playing defense. I really don't know what was going on, but at least he snapped out of it quickly, because I really don't understand what that was. Towards the end of the third quarter, it looked like Kyle Kuzma was just kind of walking him down every play, and I really don't know what that was about. But he did have 22 points, 8 assists, 7 rebounds. He was efficient again, 9 for 18 from the field. He did have 6 turnovers in this one, though, so that's a little. You'd like to see him clean that up, but the Knicks did win by 21, so thankfully it did not hurt them too much. But I don't think it was a great game by his standards, especially from what we've seen the last 5 games from him or so. We just made a video about that yesterday, but it definitely wasn't a bad game from him, so it's fine. All in all, this was just another good team win, especially considering, like you said in the opening, Barrett and Grimes were both out in this one. I don't know what's going on with RJ. It's kind of weird. I was not expecting him to miss 3 games with a migraine. I thought this would be a 1-game thing and he'd be back by now, but apparently he's not back. There was reports before the game that he was in the locker room smiling and all this and that, but he did not play in this one. Maybe it's because they play again tomorrow against the Charlotte Hornets. Maybe they're saving him for that game. I don't know. I don't know what the plan is, but I would think that someone with a migraine would not be able to sit on the bench with 20,000 screaming fans, but I'm also not a doctor, so I don't know. But all in all, good team win. And I'm happy to see them keep rolling.
Yeah, no, excellent takeaways first off, especially Emmanuel quickly, man. He's been just unreal so far to start the season. He's been, very consistent. He's had like one or two bad games. I think I mentioned this, in our previous recap. He's had a couple like not so good games, but for the most part, he's been very, very good. He's been good on the rebounding and the scoring and the playmaking as well. Of course, the defense, just doing everything you really want out of your six man. And like you said, unfortunately, at this rate, if he keeps playing like this the rest of the way, I don't know how the Knicks are going to be able to afford to bring him back unless they end up making some major roster changes, which I don't think it's worth doing for a six man. So if Quickly goes elsewhere, for an opportunity for starting, good for him. But obviously, we don't need to look into that right now because we still have another 5 months or so left of the season, and 70 plus games, and hopefully a playoffs to look forward to as well. So right now, we can just focus on that he's here and that he's balling out for us, which we're very happy about, of course. Something I want to bring up too, Evan Fournier made an appearance in this game. I don't think anybody expected Evan Fournier to see the court again, even in these kinds of circumstances, just because of the whole awkward tension between him and Tom Thibodeau over the offseason. But he made an appearance today. He played 15 minutes. He didn't really do a whole lot. In fact, he played pretty bad. He had only 2 points and went 1 of 6 from the field, 0 for 4 from three. You kind of expected a down performance though from a guy that has not seen the court at all this season up until this point. So can't really say much about that. Just I guess at least he got his burn. I guess he got some cardio in, which cool for him. Something on the Wizards I want to mention too. Jordan Poole had an awful game. The Knicks held him down big time. If anyone remembers from the preseason when he dropped 41 in a preseason game at Madison Square Garden on really good efficiency. Obviously, it's preseason. You don't want to overlook it, but it did happen. This time, he put up a stinker. 8 points, 2 for 11 from the field, 0 for 6 from three. Some of the shots he was just taking in this game, I was just like, what are you doing out there? Like, I don't really know how Wizards fans are feeling right now because, obviously this team is not very good. The Wizards I'm alluding to here. I don't know if they're kind of just like, well, we suck. I don't really care. Or if they're just like, man, this is awful. I can't watch this because watching the Wizards play today made me realize, like, dang, this team is just bad. They're just not a good team at all. Like, their record is indicative of that. They're now 2-10 on the season, but man, the way that they play, that's just bad. I'm so glad that us as Knicks fans, the Knicks had many years like that, over the past decade or so. I'm so glad that the Knicks are no longer in that kind of abyss and we're finally playing some good basketball. They've won, I believe, 5 of 6 games now, the Knicks that I'm alluding to here, which very positive sign after that rough start to the season. I think a lot of us had a feeling that eventually the Knicks would start kicking it in a little bit, but they were more so wondering when that was going to happen, especially, last season when they started off very slow and it kind of took them until December to really get going. Right now, though, they're rolling right now. They've won 5 of 6, and sure, they've played some weaker opponents because they played the Spurs, they played the Hornets, they just played the Wizards, they play the Hornets again tomorrow night. Some weaker opponents, but these are the teams you're supposed to blow out. You're playing the Washington Wizards, you're supposed to win the game by 21. In fact, I'm kind of disappointed that they only won the game by 21. With the way the Wizards were playing for most of the game, the Knicks really should have won this game by like 30 or 40 points. I'm just being brutally honest about that, but I'm not going to dwell on the fact that they didn't win by 30 or 40 points because at the end of the day, a win is a win. It doesn't matter by how much. If you won the game, you won the game. That's all it counts. So, kudos to the Knicks for winning that. The in-season tournament thing you mentioned about Brunson, yeah, he's been phenomenal. He put up 45 points in their first in-season tournament game against Milwaukee. Unfortunately, the Knicks dropped that game, but tonight 32 points on fantastic efficiency. Also had 7 rebounds and 7 assists to add to his tally as well. Jalen Brunson is awesome, man. He's awesome. I love him. We can say all we want about Jalen Brunson and how good he's been for the Knicks because it's pretty much night and day with him. He does the same things all the time. He's always coming through, always stepping up whenever we're shorthanded, coming through, when guys are struggling. He's always there to at least keep us in the games at the very minimum. And tonight, he was a big reason why we were able to win this game. And one more thing I want to add too. I thought Dante DiVincenzo had a very, very good game. He played 24 minutes and he had 14 points, 4 rebounds, 1 assist, went 5 of 9 from the field, 4 for 8 from downtown, starting in place of Quentin Grimes because, he was out with the wrist injury. I thought he played really well. I really did. I think he's been playing well all season. I want to make that clear, but I really think, stepping up in a spot start essentially here, I think he did his job. I think he did really well. I think he provided a lot of offense to, quite frankly, a team that me personally coming into this game, I questioned how the offense was going to look given that they were missing 2 starters, 2 pretty key starters at that, because Grimes kind of, enhances the spacing, even though Grimes doesn't get a whole lot of touches. Him being out on the floor does space it out a bit. And RJ's, of course, been, arguably our best player this season. Or if you want to say second best because of Jalen Brunson or something, then, I can live with that as well. But RJ's been very good this season, and he's been out for the past 3 games. We've been missing him, but the Knicks have won the last 2 games without him. If I remember correctly, the first 3 games or so that RJ missed this season, the Knicks lost those games, and now they've won their last 2. Sure, they were against the Wizards and some lackluster opponents, like the Hawks and the Wizards, but a win's a win. And given that they're shorthanded, it's more impressive that way. I will say one other thing too: the centers tonight, the centers did their job tonight as usual. They didn't put any eye-popping stats. Mitchell Robinson, for the first time it feels like in forever, didn't put up double figures in rebounds. He had 8 rebounds, which is still a good figure. Don't get me wrong, but we've been seeing him put up double-figure rebounds almost every single night. If I'm not mistaken, he was averaging like 11 rebounds or 12 rebounds entering this game. So you wish you saw a little bit more out of him, but overall I think he did his job. I don't think there was really much else to say about it. The centers kind of just they did what we expect out of him, and I'm really happy that everyone just did their part. Obviously, quickly Brunson had the standout performances, but the rest of the guys, even though they didn't have like the crazy eye-popping stats, they did what they were supposed to do, provided a big team win, which I think is big, really important, especially since they have a back-to-back yet again, which it feels like they're only playing back-to-backs at this point, but thankfully it's against the Charlotte Hornets, who are also not a very good basketball team, but the Knicks also tend to struggle on the back ends of back. So that's going to be an interesting game to look at tomorrow night against Charlotte, and it's also on the road. So we'll just have to see what happens with that. Hopefully, at least one of RJ and Grimes are back. I don't really expect both of them to be back. I'm just going to be honest. I expect Grimes to possibly miss that game as well. I will really hope, though, that RJ's back. I thought RJ was going to play tonight against Washington. Maybe the Knicks decided that they just weren't going to play him because of the fact that they were on a back-to-back. They didn't want him playing a back-to-back right after he just having migraines. So we'll just have to see what happens with that. But overall, really good team win. I'm going to pass it back off to Justin. He's going to give us, his final takeaways and anything else he wants to add, and also preview a little bit of tomorrow's game against Charlotte.
Yeah, just two things I want to touch on really quick regarding RJ. They just came out with a report. This is from Stefan Bondi that RJ decided himself today that he wasn't ready to play. I guess he just wasn't feeling it. I don't know. Like I said earlier, I don't know how someone with a migraine can sit in the arena with that many people, but it is what it is. The next one, I really don't care at this point. And another thing I want to touch on, Jalen Brunson is kind of having a weird efficiency season. Right now, he's kind of missing a lot of his two-pointers. Some of the looks that we're used to him making, he's not really getting. Some of the floaters, some of the fadeaways, things like that. Sometimes he's not making them as much, sometimes not as often. But from three, he's been almost automatic. He's shooting like 47% from three this year. He already has 4 games this year with 4+ 3-pointers. He had 7 all of last year. So, his 3-point volume is up. His efficiency is still there. So that is a positive sign, at least, that his efficiency from outside is still great despite, a much higher amount of volume. But I would like to see some of these twos fall, man. If these twos start to fall, some of these mid-ranges, some of these floaters, these fadeaways, things like that, oh my God, this guy's going to be unguardable almost. I mean, we saw it last year when he really got going and started taking a lot of threes. He basically averaged 28, 29 points a game from January onward. So, we've seen what he's capable of. And if he can just finally start to get those to fall, I mean, we saw it with Randall. He's finally started to get them to fall, and his results have been better. Man, Brunson's results haven't been bad, but if he starts to get those to fall, it's going to be unbelievable. He's going to be another All NBA caliber season coming out of him, really. So those are kind of just two things I wanted to touch on really quick, and I really don't have much else to add. This is a great team win. Hopefully this keeps rolling into tomorrow, and hopefully we are talking about another win tomorrow.
Yeah, it's not like Jalen Brunson's had a bad start to the season, but you do wish you saw a little bit more, especially from the 2-point range, like you said. You felt like some of those shots that were pretty much automatic for him last season, he's kind of just falling a little bit short. I don't know if it's just, a rhythm thing or if it's just simply not falling and he's in a slump. I'm not exactly sure what is the cause, but, I'm not worried about him. He's getting the good looks he wants. They're just not falling as consistently. And the 3-pointers, though, on the other hand, though, are coming down really good. So, like as you alluded to, so at least he's got that going for him. Overall, I expect him to just continue to do what he's been doing. I'm really happy with what he did tonight against Washington. I'm happy with what he's done this season. It's been kind of the up and down starts to the season for Jalen Brunson, if you will. The last couple games have been very good for him more on a consistent basis, but the first 8 games or so is kind of like good game, not so good game, game, good game, bad game. Kind of just back and forth a little bit. You kind of wondered when was he going to find a bit of a rhythm over a multi-game span. It seems like he's starting to find it a little bit. Just want to see some other things get touched on a little bit. I do want to say, though, one thing about Brunson, his defense has improved a little bit this year. He's playing much better defense. He's playing more physical. He's getting more physical on the glass as well, snagging rebounds, and he's drawing a lot of charges, which he normally does all the time, but he's still doing it. I think that's really good for him, especially because he's a small guard. Teams will look to attack him all the time. And the fact that he's playing more physical on that side of the ball goes a long way. It goes a long way towards the Knicks' defensive identity. It's part of why their defense has been so good this season. They're one of the top defenses in the league right now, and tonight they held their opponent under 100 points. So it kind of just proves it right there. But, overall, I don't really got much else to add either. So I guess this would be a good time to wrap this up. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We really appreciate you guys' support. Make sure you check out us on all of our social media platforms. We're on X, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. Of course, this YouTube page that you're watching the video on. The audio versions of these podcasts can be on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Make sure you give us a 5-star rating on those. Our personal Twitter accounts are above our heads. You can follow us on there. We'll see you guys in the next episode of Fireside Knicks. Peace out.